country has been very close and very helpful to us.
More than 80 years of close partnership between the United States and the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. The U.S.-Saudi relationship has been a bedrock of security and prosperity. And we take the next steps to make our relationship closer, stronger, and more powerful than ever before.
If history tells us anything, it's that sitting on massive reserves of crude oil is dangerous. It puts a giant target on your back. Look at the track record. Iran, Venezuela, Libya, Iraq. They all possessed abundant oil wealth, and they all faced direct American military force, aggressive regime change, or total economic ruin. When Saddam's statue fell, it was part of a much larger pattern. Washington has a standard operating procedure. When a state threatens its global dominance, the U.S. neutralizes them. We saw this recently with Russia. When they invaded Ukraine, America immediately froze $300 billion of their sovereign wealth and effectively severed their economy from the global banking system. Then there is the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. They lack a massive manufacturing base. They do not have enough fresh water. They don't have a nuclear weapon. Yet they receive a level of diplomatic reverence from American presidents that defies logic. The leniency the U.S. shows them is absolute. After it became public that 15 of the 19 hijackers on 9/11 were Saudi citizens, the United States launched massive, decade-long wars in Afghanistan and Iraq. Against Saudi Arabia, no invasions, no sanctions, the oil kept flowing. Instead of punishment, America provides active, hands-on support. When Saudi Arabia launched a bombing campaign in Yemen, a conflict the UN labeled the worst humanitarian crisis in the world, the U.S. sold them precision-guided munitions and provided targeting intelligence. American planes even flew mid-air to refuel Saudi fighter jets. The contradiction is staring us right in the face. The United States systematically dismantles almost every other oil-rich nation that steps out of line, but effectively operates as the unconditional bodyguard for the Saudi royal family. How does a vulnerable desert kingdom extract absolute military protection from the world's sole superpower? The answer isn't in a modern defense treaty. It goes back to a desperate financial crisis in 1971, a moment when the United States of America was staring down bankruptcy. After World War II, the global economy was rebuilt on trust. The U.S. told the world they could use the American dollar for all global trade, because every single bill was backed by physical gold sitting securely in American vaults. This chart highlights the fatal flaw that emerged by 1970. The towering bar represents the billions of paper dollars the U.S. government printed to fund spending, which completely dwarfed the tiny pile of physical gold held in reserve. It was a geopolitical Ponzi scheme. When foreign central banks did the math, panic set in. France and Britain realized the dollar was inflating. They started dumping their cash, sailing to the U.S. Treasury, and demanding their physical gold back before the vaults ran completely empty. On a Sunday evening in August 1971, President Richard Nixon went on television and severed the link.
Secretary Connally to suspend temporarily the convertibility of the dollar into gold or other reserve assets, except in amounts and conditions determined to be in the interest of monetary stability and in the best interest of the United States.
The dollar was no longer convertible to gold. Overnight, the world's reserve currency lost its physical backing. If the currency held no intrinsic value, foreign nations had no logical reason to hold it. But financial strategists in Washington identified a strict constraint in the global system. An industrial country like Japan or West Germany could run its economy without gold. They could not run their factories, heat their homes, or fuel cargo ships without oil. In 1974, the U.S. Treasury sent William Simon on a highly classified mission to Jeddah, Saudi Arabia. He was there to pitch a survival deal. This diagram outlines the strict conditions they negotiated. The U.S. would provide the Saudi royal family with cutting-edge weapons and unconditional military protection. In exchange, Saudi Arabia agreed to accept only U.S. dollars for its oil. Then they would take those massive dollar profits and loan them back to the U.S. government by purchasing treasury bonds. Because Saudi Arabia controlled the OPEC cartel, the rest of the world was trapped. To buy the crude oil they desperately needed, countries like Germany and Japan were forced to buy U.S. dollars first. This dynamic birthed the petrodollar, creating an endless demand for American paper that saved the U.S. economy. While other nations tried to secure their oil wealth through force, the results were disastrous. Leaders in Libya and Venezuela sent soldiers to forcefully expel American and British oil companies, inviting crippling American retaliation. Saudi Arabia did the exact opposite. They sent accountants. Between 1973 and 1980, the Saudi government calmly walked into corporate boardrooms and spent roughly $2 billion in cash to purchase 100% equity in their national oil company, Aramco. By treating the United States as a business partner to be bought out rather than an enemy to be overthrown, Saudi Arabia secured total ownership of the largest oil reserve on Earth without triggering a single U.S. military strike. They sweetened the deal even further. After taking total ownership, the Saudis agreed to pay those same American oil companies billions of dollars in guaranteed, risk-free service fees to continue extracting the oil for them. This flowchart reveals the political machinery they built. Saudi oil generates massive fees for U.S. corporations. Those corporations pump portions of that money into U.S. political campaigns. Those newly elected politicians then deploy the U.S. military to protect the Saudi oil fields. If any American politician attempted to abandon Saudi Arabia, the most powerful corporate lobbyists in Washington would instantly cut their funding and effectively end their career. Today, that strategy has evolved from oil contracts into a structural entanglement deeply woven into the American economy itself. Saudi Arabia holds roughly $150 billion in U.S. Treasury debt. They maintain a massive physical footprint on U.S. soil, outright owning the single largest oil refinery in North America. They have also diversified aggressively into technology. Their trillion-dollar public investment fund holds massive equity stakes in brands embedded in everyday consumer life, from Uber and Lucid Motors to Nintendo. By embedding their wealth directly into Western markets, the Saudi royal family successfully defended a $27 trillion oil empire from the world's most aggressive military without firing a single bullet. While nations that challenged American hegemony with aggression saw their economies ruined and their cities destroyed, the Saudi capital of Riyadh sits wealthy, modern, and entirely secure. Geopolitical survival does not always require hostile armies or nuclear warheads. Sometimes, true safety comes from identifying the largest superpower on the board and making it highly profitable for them to guarantee your success.